God does not exist when it can't be rationally justified. Because the slogans and cliches that they dish out just don't hold up upon examination. They don't get you to the negation of God. Number two, when you actually examine atheism in terms of its actual content, and you analyze it metaphysically, it turns out to be what is called a performative contradiction. It's a performative contradiction is a proposition or a statement that is in some way self-referential and contradicts itself, either by the internal content of the proposition or the background information needed to make the proposition. Atheist, and I'll just keep this real short.
No, take your time.
Since God constitutes an identity state, okay, the only way that you can negate or falsify an identity state is by introducing and grounding an identity state that functions as the negator for the first identity state.
Right.
They have no identifiable and defensible identity state to use as the negator for God.
So let me just unpack
So even if they say, well, God is illogical, well, the point is, first of all, that doesn't bear out upon examination. But you see, in order to assert any principle of logic,
right,
their model of reality is going to have to be identified, grounded, and they're going to have to cash out how logic is possible in their world. Because in the Christian worldview, logic is correct thinking about the world. But the world, the nature of being, is the product of the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God. Yes. And logic is a reflection of the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God. So it's impossible for them to use logic. And here's another one for you. Okay, I'm gonna give you a real.
Take your time. Go ham. I'm all about it.
I'm going to give you a powerful but very simple weapon to use on the atheist. Right. Please. So you say, can God be known if he purposes not to be known? Okay. Can God be known if God purposes not to be known? Right. Well, almost all of them say, well, no. Okay. So that means God cannot be known in whole or in part unless God engages in a revelatory actions from him to us. Therefore, absent a world where God reveals himself, a revelatory environment, then nothing can be said about God.
I love that. So I love that. I love that.
So when they negate God, they cannot say what is or is not compatible with God. Because if I told you that peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are incompatible with God, or for that matter, that the Holocaust is incompatible with God, right? Meaning his plan. Whatever we bring to the table to use as a defeater for God, we say this is incompatible with God or a maximally loving God. Well, did God reveal what states of affairs are incompatible? You ready for this? Not just with his character, but with his plan. God has a plan of creation and redemptive history. So if you're going to say that little children starving to death in some part of the world, or people dying in a war, and human beings bad to one another, or people dying, or even children dying of diseases, and you say that's incompatible with a God of love. But you see, we're not just talking about God's character. We're talking about we're in the midst of God's plan. So therefore, in order for them to be correct, they have to show how it's incompatible with God's plan.
So let me see if I understand.
How would you know what God's plan is unless he reveals it?
I want to paraphrase it because I want to make certain that I'm assimilating the material that you're giving me so it can adequately represent it. So you're saying, so you ask the question, if God purposed to remain concealed and to not be known, would there be any way for you, whoever I'm addressing, to know whether or not God existed?
No.
And that would be no, because that would be an a priori no, the way that you've described that.
No, not only could you not know anything about God, you're not going to be able to know anything about the world. Because now, are you ready for this?
Oh, thank you, 12 doers. Someone's just gave me a bunch of peppers. I don't know what that means, but
ultimate reality is now shrouded in mystery. When one refuses to acknowledge the self-revealing
I see what you did.
God,
holy shit.
Then ultimate reality is shrouded in mystery. So therefore, when they deny that we are the recipients of God revealing himself in creation and through the prophets, through Jesus Christ, they are now accepting, whether they realize it or not, that they are encompassed in a world where ultimate reality is shrouded in mystery. Therefore, if ultimate reality is shrouded in mystery, when they assert what is or is not, it will be ultimately in virtue of, I don't know.
So I heard something else which is inside of it, which is a double implication that doubles the argument strength. So if ultimate reality is logically indistinguishable from ultimate mystery, if the ultimate mystery itself is logically indistinguishable from the ultimate potentiality of divine existence, then the ultimate mystery of reality would be logically identical to the potentiality of divine existence.
No. When ultimate reality is shrouded in mystery, any affirmations about our world cannot be fundamentally grounded.
Oh, I see. I'm thinking about.
You can't even talk about laws of nature, because if laws of nature are not cashed out as being absolute,
holy shit!
Then what actualizes laws of nature if they're real?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So you see, the God of the Bible has made it such that when his revelation is properly understood, it then becomes rationally impossible to falsify or negate God. But God has designed this world that we're in, his plan, where he reveals himself through creation and through the prophets in Christ, codified in the Bible, that if a person chooses not to accept God's revelation, God is temporally judging them, whereby they will instantly be deceived by a figment of their imagination about the world. God could have made it so that upon the reception of God's revelation, that one could not fabricate in their mind a figment of their imagination, such as naturalism and materialism. But God is temporally judging people when they give him the double middle fingers and reject his revelation, that they succumb to their own self-gaslighting.
Ooh. Wow. So if they can't properly ground any of the laws of nature, they could only basically lead into a self-referential cycle.
Trust me, if I had a podcast encounter with Krauss where he couldn't use his usual shenanigans, I can guarantee you, upon my questioning, he will have an absolute meltdown.
Yeah.
You can put money on it.
Why do you think he's so hostile against the notion?
Because I have 14 years of debating and dialoguing with atheists almost on a daily basis, I know how they think. And the more arrogant they are, and the more possessed they are in pushing their atheist agenda, when they're confronted with somebody who's wiser than they are metaphysical things and ask razor-sharp, surgically sharp questions that expose the bankruptcy of their position, their slogans don't work anymore. If you go listen to my interaction with Lawrence Krauss, you'll see a mini example of him having a meltdown, because he said, there's no need for God. We can explain everything for laws of nature. When I spoke to him, I said, what is it that's ultimate and foundational that dictates all that is and cannot be? And he goes, I don't know. Why does it even matter? And that's when he had the host get rid of me.
Yeah,
because atheist slogans and cliches and their usual go-to, catchphrases, they don't work on me.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like when they try to define God as atheism is merely the absence of a belief, or they try to just talk about God as a moral monster or that.
They're shape-shifting. They're shape-shifting from classical atheism to Captain, I'm unconvinced. But that's not atheism.
Right.
Okay?
Right. Yes, I agree with you. So I have a really controversial opinion. And I think that atheists are just personified demons. I think they're demons.
No. They're not personified demons, but people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that, definitely.
Yeah,
yeah, I would definitely agree with that. So my idea, so here's how I arrived into theism. When I was 18, so between the ages of 12 and 20, 11 of my friends and family members died, and I had a best friend that he shot himself when I was 16, and my girlfriend died in a DUI when I was 18.
Your friend who shot him, was he consuming substances?
No, he was only like 15 years old. He was just he thought he got his girlfriend pregnant. He thought he got his girlfriend pregnant and he shot himself.
Okay, be careful how you. Yeah, just be very discreet. This TikTok.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes flags us for promoting it. So let's not talk about this anymore. Yeah, I don't want to get suspended.
Okay, I agree with you. So I went on this journey. I went on this journey when I was 18 because I was heartbroken and I was depressed and I was crying all the time and I just couldn't handle it. And I didn't necessarily come up with like in a great family. My mother's a psychopath. My father's a narcissist. So there was no place for me to run except to God. So I'm looking back at it now as a blessing, but it wasn't easy to get to where it was. So I started looking for God. I lost my faith in God, but I went looking for it again because I was raised as a Catholic, but I was going also to Protestant Bible school and I couldn't get the theology to stick in my head to make sense. And I said to myself, I have to somehow find out beyond the platitudes and the dogmas, a rational way as to know whether or not God existed. So I went on this journey for years and years and years. And I started to find God when I started to, so there's a book by a gentleman. He's a physicist. His name is Dr. Ervin Laszlo. He wrote a book called Science in the Akashic Field, an integral theory of everything. He's got 4 PhDs. He's a theist, and he's the one who destroyed my atheism. He presented an argument using pure empirical sciences that the quantum vacuum of the 0-point field, rightly analyzed and properly understood according to conventional scientific methodologies, yields the categorical truth of the existence of God, and that the nature of this subquantum vacuum.
No, let me set you straight here, okay?
Sure.
Biblically, we can appeal to evidences that indicate ultimate design and intentionality by God. But such a line of reasoning must be represented and cashed out as revelational from God. Because if it's not cashed out as revelational from God, then nothing can indicate God.
Okay, so let me see if I understand.
Let's say we talk about the fine-tuning of the cosmological constants, which are the values that these constants have at an atomic and subatomic level. That if any one of these constants, their astronomically narrow values were altered by the smallest amount, life as we know would not be permitted. Right. Now, we can use that as a part of our referring to how the world exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality, right? But it must be represented as it is revelational by God to us. If we try to appeal to facts or evidence and don't represent it as revelational of God and by God, not just, when I say revelational, I don't mean an inference to the best explanation, or that God is the best explanation of certain amazing phenomena, but that everything, quantum phenomenon and a blade of grass just blowing in the wind or a dog wagging his tail, all of these things, including reflection of your own self-consciousness, is revelatory of God by God. In any other alternate scenario will end in absurdity because there will be no identifiable worldview. So we need to be careful that when we present evidence, that it is presented properly as revelational of God, not just an amazing scientific fact as an inference to the best explanation to God.
I know what you're saying. So I'll try to, all right, so allow me to clarify and allow me to give you what he states. So Ervin Laszlo effectively is stating this. He says, if we take, he uses this metaphor. He says, so Bernard Heisch talks about this in a book called The God Theory. And Bernard Heisch is a physicist, and he's giving his intellectual theory about God's existing using brute physics. And he believes that the entire universe at the level of the actual potentialities, the mathematical structure of the potentialities, was the God itself. And he presents a series of arguments from his point of view. And I loved his arguments, and I loved that book, but it wasn't lock, stock, and barrel in the way that you would have suggested. But that's how scientists normally think. They're not normally as right. They're not. I
don't want to be rude, but I want to move on because I want to talk
go ahead.
to unbelievers.
Okay, go ahead. I'll bounce.
No, just don't go yet. When is your debate set up with Lawrence Krauss?
So we have to arrange the payment. I'm moving out to New York in 2 weeks. I'm in Connecticut right now. We're setting the studio up. It's going to be somewhere about 6 to 8 weeks out, and we got to get him paid. He agreed to it.
You mean New York State or New York City?
New York State. I'm going to New York State. Mm-hmm. So upstate New York. But what we want to do is, because I literally live probably like 4 minutes away from Yale. So we could have the debate at Dwight Hall, and we can invite him. And I've debated at Dwight Hall before because I'm in the area. And I've called him up and I asked him if he wanted to debate me at Dwight Hall. He said yes. I said $5,000. He goes, well, you're going to have to pay for my airplane too and my hotel. I was like, okay, fine, we'll do that, and we'll get that done. And he was like, who are you? I'm like, don't worry about me. I'll just send you the material and I'll get you paid. And you can make a decision.
I think because he's a figure of notoriety, and you're asking him to travel and all that. Okay, that I thought you meant a debate, doing it online or something.
No, we're going to have that too. We're definitely going to have that. But if it's something but the idea behind it is that I'm going to have this panel to which I bring different prominent atheists up on my show. And they're gonna be able. I'm gonna pit them against like you and whoever, and like Matt Hoff and whoever the hell I gotta put them against. And
I'm just telling you, don't mention my name.
Oh, I won't. I promise you, I won't. But we'll do what we can to set this up. Hey, Darth, thanks for having me. I'm gonna hit you up later, homie. Take care.
Okay, homie. Thanks for coming.
Take care. Bye bye.
I would love to interact with some of these highfalutin atheists. That would be really fun. Well, I don't think he has his theology all correct, but I like to try to work with people, okay? I don't expect people to change their thinking instantly. So he was receptive to the critiques that I made, so. Ladies and gentlemen, Darth McMahon has entered the building.
Yep. There I am. Here I am. Hey, Darth.
Yeah, I was listening to an atheist stream where an atheist who had come on here acted like a complete low-hanging fruit. It's just laughable because he wouldn't dare try the crap that he did with this woman that he did with me.
It's sad that they're that deceptive.
Yeah. Well, they like going after low-hanging fruit.
But Darth, even like they'll run arguments that they know are like I'll sometimes hear atheists run arguments against low-hanging fruit that they know are weak arguments, but they still run it because they know that the low-hanging fruit will not be able to answer it, right? I feel like it's like very dishonest.
They get a kind of perverted satisfaction after going after low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, yeah. But isn't that dishonest,
Oh,
Darth? Like that's...
by the way, I entered into an atheist stream tonight. We should have remembered what the name of it was, but it was all about, there were a lot of regularly atheists on TikTok, and it was all about religious trauma, and they're whining and complaining about how they're victims of religious trauma. So I wrote in the text. You ready?
Okay.
I wrote in the text. Just think of the trauma they're going to experience when they stand before God on Judgment Day. Well, 20 seconds after I posted it, they blocked my account.
Wow. That's yep.
And guess who was there on the religious trauma panel? Our good old friend Justin from Deconstruction Zone.
Ah, okay.
They're all whining about how they've been traumatized.
Mm.
See, they're just proving my point that many of them suffer from mental aberration.
Yeah, like, but Darth, that's like a very bad reason to reject God because of like how people treat, how you were mistreated.
Well, they have an emotional vendetta. That it's simply that. It's an emotional vendetta.
Because they usually try to tell us, Darth, oh no, it's because of these intellectual reasons that I rejected God, right? But it seems,
many of them have a vicarious. They're going after their religious relatives vicariously by doing their little atheist shtick on TikTok.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, once again, we're not getting any atheist or intelligent opposition, which is no surprise.
Yeah. The atheist community should be very much embarrassed at this point.
Well, they have no shame. Hey, Jeff for Truth, why don't you come on up, big guy? You like to mouth off. I try to go on your streams. Why don't you come up here for Jeff for Truth, and you can explain to me how Christianity is full of contradictions. Let's see if Jeff is a big boy, and he only shows up where he can mouth off. Come on up, Jeff for Truth. He ran away from me the other day. Welcome, Beard. What would you like to say?
Hello.
I'm waiting.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I was. I guess I'm part of the atheist community. I was.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
Hold on a second, Jeff. Listen, I try to go on your streams. You won't let me up. I went on a stream the other day, and you ran away from me. So I'd like you to explain to me how you can use the law of non-contradiction against Christianity. And I have some other questions for you, since you say that God in the Bible doesn't exist. Come on up, Jeff. Here, I'll send you an invite.
I already invited him, Darth.
Come on up, Jeff.
Yeah.
See, the atheists are afraid to come on my stream. Okay? They are. They only want to spout their nonsense when they can run amok.
Yep.
They don't want to be questioned like adults. Okay, so once again, Jeff runs away. Not surprising.
Away.
Jeff's a real clown show. He shoots his mouth off morning, noon, and night on TikTok, and he won't even come up here. What's he afraid of? Okay? What could he possibly be afraid of?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, he just proved my point. The atheists are afraid. Beard, how old are you?
34.
Okay, you sound very young.
Okay,
go ahead.
I'll try to take that as a compliment, I suppose.
Well, sometimes people that are very young sound a lot older, and sometimes people sound young. I was speaking with one of my mother's friends a year or so ago. She literally sounded like she was a 35-year-old woman, and she was like 93. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead. What would you like to say?
Yeah, I guess I'm part of the atheist community, I suppose, and I was gonna say, where I guess my lack of belief comes from is...
No, atheism is not merely a lack of belief. Atheism is the denial of God. Defining atheism as a lack of belief is ambiguous and unclear because it can mean more than one of two things.
Sure, I'm happy to amend my statement and say my belief in no God. Is that more precise?
When it comes to the proposition of God's existence, one will either affirm or deny God's existence, or one will claim not to make a judgment either way. To identify as an atheist in the English-speaking world is to select the only word that designates those who deny God. So if somebody self-identifies as an atheist, but then when they begin to unpack their position, and they're now defining atheism not as the direct or indirect denial of God, but just simply the mental state absent a positive belief in God, that's not atheism.
Well, so is that what I said was more agnosticism, or?
Well, you're misidentifying yourself. Okay, so atheism. See, internet atheists are trying to co-opt and change the definition of atheism to make it indistinguishable from agnosticism. Okay. Now,
I guess I can assure you I'm not trying to play any games or anything. I'm just trying to...
I'm not accusing you.
Okay.
I'm not accusing you. I'm just talking about what many atheists do online. So either you claim to acknowledge God and affirm God, or you choose not to acknowledge God and deny him, or you will lay claim to suspending judgment. But that self-identification is problematic as well. So do you claim God does not exist, or are you claiming just simply to be you're neutral?
I don't believe that God exists. I suppose I would be leaning in that direction more than but I suppose like in any of these beliefs I feel that they all operate off of certain presuppositions, and the place where I come from my worldview is I'm operating off of the presupposition that the material world is real, and I guess that I would give a tip of the hat or pay closer attention or lean more on predictive models more than unpredictive models of explaining.
Can you tell me why God doesn't exist?
I suppose in terms of the operating off of my presuppositions, I've found that a lot of the my understanding of the material world, I feel like even though I know I don't have all the answers, that just the non-theistic explanations are satisfactory to me.
So God doesn't exist because you're unsatisfied?
No. Like I feel like I don't feel it necessary to explain a lot of the things I suppose that are asserted to be explained by God.
Okay, so you're adopting naturalism then?
I'm sorry, I'm not thing with all the terminology. What do you mean by
naturalism? Means that the material world is all that exists.
Yes, sure. Naturalism, materialism, sure. Yeah, I thought that was... Are materialism and naturalism the same thing?
Pretty much.
Yeah, materialism, pretty much.
Sometimes in some circles there are different nuances, but for the sake of the conversation. So how did you determine that naturalism is true?
I suppose there's no proof that, anything would have certain presuppositions, and ultimately
So you don't have a justification for your naturalism?
I think my justification would just be it's as close to the truth that I can get with my sensory organs, and I'm gonna just have to be satisfied with as much as I can provide.
How does your sensory apparatus determine that the world exists with complete independence from God? How does that work?
It does not. It does not. It certainly does not.
Okay, so then you don't have a justification for naturalism. Okay, in order to deny God, you're going to have to provide an identity statement that functions as the negator for God, such as naturalism. But you don't have a justification for naturalism.
But if I don't have the justification, does that mean that I must necessarily then be in the other camp, or?
Well, there's only two camps: those who affirm and acknowledge God, and those who deny God either directly or indirectly.
But if you don't acknowledge God, but also don't have a justification, then what camp would that put you in?
You're an irrational atheist, that you're denying God without a rational defense.
I suppose I've heard a few things in the live. I guess the part that I find unconvincing for the I believe
the position. Stop bringing up your being unconvinced. This is a form of shape-shifting that atheists do. The issue isn't that you're merely unconvinced. The issue is you are either directly or indirectly affirming and acknowledging God or not. And if you're not, you're directly or indirectly denying God. Agnostics, while claiming that they're suspending judgment, do in fact indirectly deny God. So there's no neutrality. So your position constitutes either the direct or indirect denial of God. So how is it that God doesn't exist?
No, sure. I'm happy to be the direct denial of God camp. I guess
Good. I want you to explain. Look, are you having trouble understanding what I'm saying to you? Please tell me, what is your rationale that God does not exist?
Oh, I thought I already answered that question. I said
no, you
that I
didn't.
don't have a rationale.
Okay, good. Then your denial is irrational. And I can only conclude that you're adopting this position irrationally because you don't want to acknowledge the God who has revealed himself in creation. You see, it's obvious that God exists because the world around us exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality. When the world exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality, then our world is intelligible. But if you reject that, then all you're just going to be dealing with is either determinism or indeterminism. Okay? That either the world is entirely deterministic or it's an entirely chance world. You're being a conscious thinking person within the auspices of either a deterministic realm or a chance world. Okay? Neither one of those scenarios can provide for rational human beings.
I feel like determinism could provide for rational human beings.
First of all, you won't be able to defend determinism. But even if I were to grant that, determinism means that everything that you do, every neurological state in between your ears was determined billions of years ago. You're not a rational human being. You are an automaton. You are a robot.
No, yeah, okay? I understand that.
Why does my cat behave the way it does? Why does my dog behave the way it does? It behaves the way it does due to billions of years from a not God perspective. I don't agree with that. Okay. And what you have is neurological descent and operant conditioning and stimulus and response, which all come under the heading of determinism. So determinism, when advocated, destroys one's ability to claim that they have reasoning faculties.
I think I'm on that. I think I'm on board with the determinism camp. In fact, that also goes a step further.
I'm not getting through.
Darth, can I say something about determinism?
Yeah, please go ahead, Egyptian.
Yeah, so Darth is absolutely correct. You cannot be irrational if you hold to hard determinism. That's why hard determinism is self-defeating. Because here's another way to put it, Beard.
Speak up, Egyptian.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, can you? Is this better? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So Darth is absolutely correct that hard determinism is self-defeating and can't be rational and hold to hard determinism. Because another way to put it, Beast, is all your thoughts, right, were not determined for truth, but by the laws of physics, right? And so, if you believe in hard determinism, then all your beliefs were not determined for truth, but by the laws of physics, including the belief in hard determinism.
Free will also.
You can't really know that it's true. So you can never really know that it's true.
We're talking to an answering machine right now.
Yeah, that's right.
So thank you for your time. Wirtz, go ahead. It's amazing how clueless some people are.
Yeah.
Are you
Hey,
there, Words? Go ahead, Words.
hi, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead, sir.
Oh, well, you Egyptian invited me up, so
Well,
I
he invited you up because you probably said something of significance.
You
perhaps
said something in the comments. But I might have. Yeah. So I invite people from the comments, Darth, when they say something. So let me see. What did you say? I'm scrolling
Were
up
you
to.
saying something in opposition?
no, it was probably about Lifeless, your guest that you had on before the last one.
You mean deathless?
Yes, Deathless, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, did you know? Well, I had a conversation with him a while back. I think he's a really interesting. He's got some really interesting views. I don't know if he told you he's a Baha'i. Do you know? Are you familiar with Baha'i?
Yes, yeah. I did not know that he was a Baha'i. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to
Well,
like.
he and I are going to have to talk because Baha'i is an incoherent metaphysic.
Yeah.
Baha'i takes aspects from all different religions, and this is a metaphysical contradiction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So words. Are you an atheist or?
No, I'm a Christian.
Oh, okay. Because I saw in the comment section you wrote that your guest is a very interesting dude. So I thought you were supportive of the guest that Darth had, like an
Well,
atheist.
he
And
is.
that's why I invited
I
you
mean,
up.
he.
That's
You know.
Well, I'm glad you told me because I didn't know that he was Baha'i. So I'm glad that you told me that.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I do think he's interesting. I don't agree with his
Oh, I
religious.
didn't agree with a lot of what he was saying, but he was trying to be very cordial. He wanted to invite me to talk with some atheists, and I don't have to agree with him in order to try to expose atheism and share the gospel with them.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where I was at.
It doesn't mean I'm going to be endorsing his Baha'i. And
Yeah.
I will make it clear if he is Baha'i, I will make it abundantly clear if and when I'm invited, when I go on the podcast, that I do not agree or support that. In fact, that I oppose it because I stand on the Christian worldview, which he seems the kind of the person that he won't mind me doing that. So,
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of aspects to that I don't understand, but yeah, I do know. I mean, he talked about Jesus quite a bit, so you know, um, all those pieces together is complicated.
well, the point is this: Christ is Lord. He's coming again to judge the living and the dead. And his self-identity claims, when properly understood through creation, through the prophets, and in his incarnation, and then codified propositionally in the Bible, are such that they are self-authenticating and self-attesting, and no human being on this planet can rationally refute Jesus' identity claims. And anybody who attempts to do so, regardless of their intellect, IQ, or academic background, is being irrational. Because then they're claiming that Christ is not the Lord of glory. He is not the single causal first principle for everything. Therefore, they're going to have to tell us what is.
Yeah, I agree.
And they won't be able to. They won't be able to do that.
Right.
Anyway, thank you very much. Please come again.
Will do. Have a good night, Darth.
Welcome, Takami. What would you like to say?
Hey Darth, what do you think about Barth Ehrman?
I think Bart Ehrman is a really smart guy. He's a bona fide New Testament scholar. Unfortunately, in his rebellion against God and his atheism, he tends to misrepresent certain biblical data, which is shame on him. You know.
Is he denying Bible?
Yeah, he attacks the integrity of the Bible, having to do with textual variants. But he's even admitted in his own books that none of the textual variants in the Greek copies of the Greek New Testament bear any problem upon the essential doctrines of the Christian faith. So
That's right.
it just he has a he just has an atheist agenda, you know. There's a couple of books written in refuting Bart Ehrman. I don't recall the title of it, but I'm sure if you Google it, or ask ChatGPT, it'll be able to give you the title. There's more than one book refuting Bart Ehrman's criticisms of the Christian worldview and of the Bible.
Darth, I really want you to watch a debate between Bart Ehrman and Jimmy Aiken on the reliability of the gospel.
Send me the link on that. I will definitely watch that.
I'll send you the link for that. Yeah.
Is he the one of the best hermeneuticals?
Say that again?
Please go ahead. I think one of the best scholars that he...
No, he's not one of the best scholars. He is a New Testament scholar. Okay. He studied under the late, great Bruce Metzger, one of the great New Testament scholars in the 20th century. But then again, a lot of people studied under Metzger or worked under Metzger. But Bart Ehrman is just flat out wrong in his attacks upon Christianity. The textual variants in the thousands of Greek copies, they don't present any problem to us understanding what, for the most part, was the original text type. Spelling differences and word order differencing does not call into question what the text of the New Testament is. There are some rare textual variants that we might have a question about, but most of the variants are just simply completely inconsequential. But thank you for coming. So once again, we're not getting any intelligent opposition. We saw Jeff for Truth, the big loudmouth on TikTok, attacking the God of Christianity, did not have the intestinal fortitude to come up on stage and chat with me. He demonstrated that he's just a complete coward. Look, if Jeff invited me up on his stage, I would go up. I went up on a TikTok stream several days ago where he was a guest, and Jeff would barely talk with me, and then he ran away. I asked him, he wants to talk about, I asked him, in order to falsify the Christian worldview, you're going to need to be standing on and articulating out of a worldview. I said, what is your worldview that you're going to use as a foundation to falsify the Christian worldview? And I kid you not, this is what this super genius said. He said, my worldview is that there are contradictions in the Bible. That's not a worldview. So,
that's not...
he made a mistake of acknowledging me in the text rather than me just assuming that he just, came across the stream and just kept on scrolling, up and up and up.
Yeah.
So Jeff for Truth showed that he's a loudmouth critic of Christianity, but when he has the opportunity to bring his goods, his attacks on Christianity with somebody who has some notoriety in defending the Christian worldview, he runs away. So Jeff made a mistake. That was a pure display of cowardice. Welcome, Rand. What would you like to say?
Hey, I just came across. I've been speaking with a few atheists a while ago, and it came to a point where I started to notice a pattern where, with most,
you got to slow down a little bit because I may have a little trouble with your accent.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
No. You don't need to apologize.
Right. All right. I'll slow down.
You're not doing anything wrong.
Right. So I've been noticing with a lot of atheists that, as you pointed out, they don't really engage in rational discourse. It's a lot of quick answers, bait and switch, switching the goalpost and all of that, right?
Constantly. They bicker like teenagers at the cafeteria table.
Yeah,
they refuse to focus. They filibuster, they lie, they dodge, they evade, they obfuscate, they prevaricate.
Yeah, but then it came to me where I started to think about it. I once heard a seminar where they were saying, this is where that scripture said that if you just reject God, then you are going to reject reason, and nothing is going to bring you back. Like, spiritual things have to be spiritually discerned. But then there's this conflict in my heart about that, in that when someone is at that stage and it no longer makes sense to have discourse with them, what then becomes our objective? Do we engage them solely for those who are witnessing that discourse, so that someone else who maybe actually does have an open mind can hear?
You're going to have to be a judge for yourself. At a certain line, if they're being obscene and profane, I would just walk away from those crazies. But we need to confront them with their irrationality. Everything that comes out of their mouth. You have to understand that all propositions are going to be under the auspices of a model of reality. All right? And so the actuality and the intelligibility of truth statements and propositions will be in virtue of your model of reality. So in the atheist model of reality, there is no God. And from that model of reality, they're asserting what is and cannot be, including that there's no God. But they have no identifiable, defensible model of reality. Therefore, they don't actually have a propositional negator for God. Their slogans and cliches don't work. Why do you think the overwhelming majority of them go, there's no evidence for God? Well, what does that even mean?
Yeah, and then if you ask them what would they accept as evidence, they can't tell you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how would it even follow from them saying that there's no evidence for God, therefore God doesn't exist? So they're just cliche spewing machines. Okay, that's all they are.
Yeah.
What they're doing is, when they say there's no evidence for God, are they telling us that the world is indeterminate? Or are they telling us that they've determined that the world is independent from God? Well, how'd they figure that out?
It's kind of, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like Frank Turek.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with Frank Turek.
Right. Him and Cliff as well. They have a thing where they say, all right, then which one makes the most logical sense? And what I found is, taking that approach, a lot of them just default.
Logic. Look. You can't ground and justify logic in a not God world. Yeah. Because logic is correct thinking about the world. So in order to have correct thinking about the world, you have to identify what is foundational to the world. But their world is shrouded in mystery. So they have no basis for logic. Okay?
Yeah.
They'll invoke the law of identity, the law of non-contradiction. The guy earlier I was talking about, Jeff for Truth, he wants to say, the Bible has these contradictions. When I ask him, what is it that establishes or grounds a law of non-contradiction in his not God world? And he goes, well, it just is. I mean, that's the stupidest answer that anybody could give. You would expect that from a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
So he wants to run around and say, the Bible is and the contradictions that he brings up, I mean, they're so shockingly bad that not even teenagers would say such stupid things.
Yeah.
Like you'll say,
thanks for having your thoughts on the matter.
All right, thanks for coming.
I think the biggest conflict that I've had was sometimes it's, do we confront them for their sake or for the sake of the persons that listen to them?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for coming, Ren.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor Jeff for Truth. I mean, here's this guy who's he has this hate fetish with the God of the Bible, yet he runs away. Here he is, big man on campus, claiming that the God of the Bible doesn't exist, and he doesn't want to even have a conversation or a debate with one of the biggest defenders of Christianity on TikTok.
Because he wants low-hanging fruit, Darth.
Yeah, not that I have a large following. If I posted videos, I would have a much larger following. But maybe I'm just too lazy to post videos. but I'm just saying in terms of people who are familiar with me. No, he just embarrassed himself. Jeff knows that he would be annihilated, but you know what? He's just going to continue with his obsession with attacking the Christian God. Like here's one of the contradictions he says, where in James it says, if any of you is sick, call the elders, anoint them with oil, and they'll be healed. What he doesn't understand, he hasn't even read a basic book on hermeneutics. You cannot take a statement that was made to a specific person or a group of people that was never intended to be a universal dictum when it was only localized in circles in order to establish the gospel and bolster people's faith and empower them in the first century, right?
Yep.
Where in the text does it mean when James says anoint them with oil and they'll be healed, that it means that any Christian here on in the future, anywhere on the planet until Christ returns, that if you get anointed with oil, you're going to be healed? Where does it say that?
Yeah, it doesn't say that. Yeah.
No, it just goes to show you that, he's off his rocker.
Yeah, that's like a really bad argument from Jeff. Like that's like,
you're being complimentary.
I'm being complimentary. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to say that it's bad is a gross understatement.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, this guy is.
It's beyond bad. It's horrendous. Okay, we're still waiting for some intelligent unbelievers.
Darth, like I feel like when people are that obsessed with Christianity, they believe that Christianity is true, but they want to delude themselves that Christianity is not true. And that's why
Jeff has this vendetta and obsession with Christianity.
Yeah.
There are people who leave Christianity, and they just go on with their lives. Okay?
Exactly. Yeah.
So Jeff, were you traumatized by some religious people?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. And I've never really understood, Darth, the logic. Like, if someone was truly traumatized, then why are they blaming the religion of Christianity on that trauma? Like, it was the people that should be blamed that committed that traumatic events in their lives.
They're not thinking right. They don't have their heads right. You ever see the movie Cool Hand Luke?
No.
You got to watch it. That's a classic movie.
Cool Hand Luke? Okay, cool.
Yeah, with Paul Newman.
Okay, yeah.
Paul Newman was one of the great movie stars of the 20th century. And Cool Hand Luke is about Paul Newman, was a war hero who got drunk one night and ripped the heads off of parking meters. And he had to go to a chain gang in Alabama or some southern state. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just an incredible movie. It's very unique. You're never going to see another movie like it. And Paul Newman was fantastic in it. And one of the scenes where he tries to escape and the warden of the prison says, "Luke, you got your head straight?" Well, the atheists don't have their head straight. I mean, they're just so accustomed to their convoluted thinking that they think it's normal. And then when you start to ask them questions that expose how convoluted their God denialism is, they become evasive and deceptive and disruptive. Remember the 3D strategy. Disruption of words. I got to phrase that correctly. Disruptive verbal interactions.
Yep.
3D strategy. Okay.
Exactly. That's how they interact with us. Yep.
Diversion, deflection, and disruption. Verbal disruption.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So true.
So we're waiting for any unbelievers. Excuse me. I'm starting to get tired, so if any unbelievers aren't going to come up, I may shut this down soon.
Yeah. They're afraid, Darth.
Well, I say this all the time, and I think we had proved it with Jeff for Truth. Why did he even acknowledge me in the text? I was even surprised that he did. He's literally afraid.
Yeah.
Where's Mr. Bold ass, atheist and Christian God denier? Where is he?
I invited him a couple of times, Darth.
Yeah, let's talk about those so-called Bible contradictions, Jeff. No, Jeff, gets off on picking on low-hanging fruit.
Yep, exactly. I think Darth, that even like the beauty of like precept apologetics, right, is that all the problems that they try to present, right, wouldn't even apply to us. It would apply to people who are like evidentialists, right, who might say that atheism might be possibly true, right, but not probable, right. However, in our worldview, to reject the Christian God is impossible, right? Or to even utter a statement or to make an argument borrows from the Christian worldview, right? So even when they're stating an argument against our worldview, they're already borrowing from our worldview. They're already assuming that our worldview is true.
They're gonna deny that, but you see, they can't sustain the denial.
Yeah. So actually, all these problems that they actually pose against Christianity would be automatically defeated for the precept apologist, right? They wouldn't. I mean, yeah, they don't. They would apply like to the evidentialist, right? But they wouldn't apply to the precept apologist. So yeah, like that's something to ponder about. That actually none of these arguments can be applied to the presuppositional apologist.
It's sad. It's sad. But I thought it was so funny in that group therapy session that they were holding about religious trauma. When I talked about the trauma of standing before God, they were so traumatized by my statement that that they banned me. And all I said, just imagine the trauma when you stand before God on Judgment Day.
That's gonna be like really, really bad trauma, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They know it's coming, but they just want to gaslight themselves.
Is it, Darth, because of maybe so why don't they want to submit to God, Darth, then? Like if like they know that it's coming and they're gonna have to.
Why does anybody sin? Because we either have momentary or prolonged rebellion. It's just they don't want to humble themselves.
Yeah, that's right. It's their pride and their ego. Yeah.
Yeah, atheism is just a prolonged rebellion against God. You see, we as sinners before God deserve to go to hell every much as they do for our sins and our rebellion against God. But the thing is, we don't do it prolonged. We've decided to repent and turn to God for salvation. They don't want to do that, which is sad.
It's very sad.
Yeah. I mean, just look at Christopher Hitchens or, excuse me, I was just yawning, Daniel Dennett, two of the famous four horsemen of the new atheist. They're both dead now, right?
They're not atheists anymore, Dorothy.
No, they're not. And in fact, one of the atheists I used to debate all the time on Discord just a couple of years ago, and I kept on warning him, you're irrational, you're going to stand before God. Well, guess what? He's dead now. Right?
Wow.
Absolutely dead.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. It's sad that he died without submitting to God. That's the sad part.
Let's just hope that in his final moments he may have repented, and we'll see him on the other side. But it's not likely.
Do you think, Darth, that a lot of these people do, like in their deathbed, like repent, or you would say no, you don't?
No, I don't. I think that some of them might, but I can't imagine that a lot of them would. Welcome, Bus King. What would you like to say?
Hello. Can I listen to your objective proof for the existence of God?
Yeah, when we look at the world as it presents itself to us, the world exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality. And the reason why it does is the world could only exemplify either ultimate design and intentionality or pure necessity without God, or a chance world. When we look at a chance world, nothing can mean anything. There's no rhyme or reason why anything is or happens. In a world of determinism, apart from a world that's dictated by God's mind, purpose, and plan and intentionality, in a deterministic world, nothing can mean anything at all, because your mental states are just like a soda can fizzing when you shake it up and open it. Okay, your current thoughts at any given moment were billions of years in the making. So determinism actually destroys the notion of rational thought. Okay, so there's only one option remaining, that the world exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality, and when it does, then the mind and plan of God actualizes what the world is, and God can make us to be like himself, a conscious agent. Deny that your agency and your self-consciousness is a gift from God representing ultimate design and intentionality, then you have no model of reality to explain how you're a conscious thinking person. And saying it's an emergent property of evolution would be a joke. It's meaningless. So the world exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality, and such a notion cannot be rationally denied. In addition to that, the God of the Bible has revealed himself objectively to various individuals through the prophets.
Before we move on, can we go back to what you were just talking about?
Yeah, sure.
So you're saying that consciousness is definitive proof of the creation of the universe being intentional?
Yeah. So our consciousness, just like any other fact that you want to bring up, like the tree blowing in the wind or the sky being blue, it doesn't matter what the fact is. Each and every fact will either be reckoned as exemplifying and indicating ultimate design and intentionality or not. Therefore, those facts in question, including our self-consciousness, would be under the auspices of being creaturely as opposed to being brute. So facts will either be ultimately creaturely, in that we are the product of God as creator, and that these facts, again, are emblematic and reveal God by his purpose. And if we reject that our own consciousness is creaturely, then your consciousness and any other fact in the world, could be the sky being blue, the dog wagging its tail, any other fact will simply be what we call a brute fact. A brute fact has no foundational or ultimate explanation for what or why it is. And you're not going to be able to string together a chain of proximate explanations and then go, oh, but ultimately I don't know what puts the chain together. There's no chain to talk about in a world that's shrouded in ultimate mystery. So, if you don't accept that the world is emblematic of ultimate design and intentionality, the world doesn't mean anything, because there's nothing within your model that's identifiable or defensible that dictates what anything is, including your consciousness. So to refuse to accept that the world is emblematic of God by God, according to his purpose, will mean that you have no meaningfulness to speak of. So, for example, God being the single causal first principle, the ultimate and absolute identity state, he then creates, actualizes, and sustains all other identity states according to his plan. Now, if you don't accept that, you're going to have to explain what it is that actualizes any identity states, from the smallest scale to the grandest scale. Identity states are going to be states of unity, like an electron, a proton, a neutron, an atom, a molecule, a protein, an organism, a dog, a tree, a rock, a planet, a star, a galaxy. These are all identity states. Okay. Either these are emblematic of the ultimate identity state, God, who actualizes these things, and these things reveal God by his purpose, or when you invoke identity states in a world without God, then how are they identity states? What actualizes it? If you don't accept that the world reveals God, then you believe that something else is actualizing any and all identity states. Okay? Okay, what's the something else?
We
And
don't
so
have to know. We don't have to know, but just because we don't know,
you're not
it doesn't
you're
automatically.
not understanding. Okay, you see, the moment you adopt that it's something else, you have now violated the very criterion that you dismiss God as the actualizer of identity states. So your position instantaneously becomes incoherent by your own standard.
Wait, I don't understand the terminology of identity states. I've literally never heard
Okay,
that before.
so the cat is on the mat. Do you understand that?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, the cat is an identity state. The mat is an identity state. The cat is a unified state and is discrete and distinct from the mat. Okay?
Physically, are you talking?
Yeah, I'm saying that something is unified, and it's unified in that it is discrete and distinct from something else.
Okay, yeah.
Now, you might have, let's say, electrons, protons, and neutrons. They're discrete and distinct from each other, but there is something that is putting them into a compound unified state. Okay? So there are derivative identity states, and then there are irreducible identity states.
Right.
Either way, to speak intelligibly about your world requires invoking that they're identity states. Now, these identity states are either going to be actualized and sustained by the mind and the purpose and plan of God, or something else. Now, if you reject the rationale that I have given you, and I have given you a carefully worded and thought out rationale, whether you accept its validity or not is another issue, but you can't say I haven't given a well thought out rationale, right? If you reject it, then in principle you're operating that something else makes identity states real. Now, if there were no real identity states, could you speak intelligibly? You have an answer to that?
Okay.
Can you answer my question?
I don't understand what you're trying to say. What your point is? I feel like if you have a
listen
point,
to me carefully.
I feel like
if identity states were not look. Let me explain something to you. When we speak of the world, I'm trying to explain it to you. Do you want to learn? Do you want to learn or not? Okay, have a nice night. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye.
Interrupting Darth, yeah. He doesn't want to learn. Yeah, this is...
Yeah. No, he's doing the 3D strategy. Diversion, deflection, and then verbal disruption.
Yep.
Okay? So the point is, notice that he admitted that the something else that he's operating from is unidentifiable and undefensible. Then how can it be said that it's real? Right? Welcome, Danny. What would you like to say?
So somebody in the comment section is being kind of dumb, like usual. And they're saying that God made the sun on day 3. So how could, plants exist? And I know you know the answer to that question because I've heard you explain it before.
Well, these people are so fundamentally stupid. So first of all, do plants immediately die without light?
Nope.
No, they don't. They'll die without prolonged exposure to light. But the Bible says in the early part of Genesis, what was one of the first 2 things that God created? He said, let there be light. And then he created the earth on day 1. Okay? So, God created light in transit. Okay? And we can properly infer that the light in transit was, I don't want to use the word bombarding, but coming into contact with the earth. Okay? But even if we didn't say that, we say, good. So maybe God made the plants with enough fortification that it could remain alive until the sun was created.
Yeah, I know. So I don't get it.
This is the kind of objection that's worse than what a 15-year-old will come up with.
It's like they haven't grown since they were like 13.
Well, 98 to 99% of all the atheists that I listen to and that I have interchanges with them, these are not people that have critical thinking skills. Even when I talk with professional atheists, they suffer from the same problem. It's not that they're stupid. It's not that they don't have an IQ or they're smart. I've even talked with atheists who have PhDs in philosophy that failed miserably to answer the very simple questions that I pose to them. Not because I'm a super genius, but these are questions that derive from God's revelation that in their denial of God, they cannot answer.
Right. I was trying to prove to them, too, that like they're trying to say that the Bible's fiction and everything, but I'm just like, well, then how are their genealogies?
And I would just say, the Bible is a set of propositions representing a comprehensive worldview, and that the Bible represents a proposition, which is a set of propositions. If one is going to say that that's fiction, how is their proposition saying the Bible as a proposition is fiction? How is it that their proposition is not fiction?
I know, okay? That's true, and I was trying to tell them like when you read the genealogies even in the Bible, and they all like date back and everything, that almost proves it all to me, because I don't know why. I don't know if it's really proof, but like the genealogy.
So you have to understand, when they say the Bible is fiction, what they're saying is the Bible as a composite set of propositions, okay, is fiction. What they're saying is the composite propositional nature of the Bible is it's not authoritative. Well, how is their declaration that the Bible is fiction? How is that authoritative?
True.
Is there propositional judgment that the Bible is fiction? Is that absolute? Okay. How do they know that?
They don't.
No, they don't. First of all, you want to start to say, are you omniscient? No, you're not. And they'll turn around and they'll go, are you? No, but I know somebody who is, and it's God. He's revealed himself in creation and through the Christian scriptures. Now, they're not going to accept that. Well, I don't care if they don't accept it. And on Judgment Day, they're going to look back and realize that their naysaying had no authority. If they're going to reject that the Bible represents the supremacy of the mind of God and how he reveals it, and that the propositional content of the Bible speaks with authority from God, and that the propositional content is self-authenticating and self-attesting, and they negate that, then how is their judgment authoritative? How is that authoritative judgment self-authenticating? If they're going to say the Bible is not self-authenticating and that it does not speak with authority from and by God, then how is what they're saying speaking with authority?
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. They don't make any sense to it ever.
What you're doing is you're doing metaphysical jujitsu. You're taking the very principle that they're employing and you're using it against them.
So what? Okay. How do they know that what they're saying is true?
What they're saying is that the Bible as a composite set of propositions is not self-authenticating and it is not authoritative. But that judgment that they're making is a proposition. How is that proposition authoritative?
True.
Them simply stating that they're unconvinced is just an invocation of their mental state. That's not a determination that the Bible is not the Word of God exterior to their mind.
True.
Yeah.
All right.
So you see, once you understand the basics of the Christian worldview from an apologetic point of view, it's easy to pull the rug out from under them because they're bluffing. They're pretending like they have a full house and they have no matching cards.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Plus, if you give them one objection, they'll just bring up 10 others. That's not even relevant.
Well, here's the problem. What we have here is not a dispute about a collection of facts. What we have is a complete clash and an antithesis of a worldview. Our worldview is a composite set of propositions, and that's the propositions that are in the Bible. So when they oppose the Christian worldview, either explicitly or implicitly, well, then how do they identify and ground their worldview in order to make any authoritative statements? And the answer is they can't. Right? Welcome, Adrian. What would you like to say? All right, get out of here. Darth Dawkins is a mean person, so get out of here. I'm joking. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump off.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Okay, Denny, thanks for coming again. Okay, so the objective proof of God is where we recapitulate God's revelation of himself in creation and through the prophets, ultimately in Jesus Christ, codified propositionally in the Bible. So how has God authoritatively revealed himself in the world? So everything in the world exemplifies ultimate design and intentionality, okay? Because it would and does exemplify ultimate design and intentionality, we have an identifiable and defensible ultimate causal first principle that secures what everything is and the meaningfulness and intelligibility therein. If one rejects that the world in whole or in part does not exemplify ultimate design and intentionality, then there's no world to speak of. And by that I mean, within your model of reality, you don't have anything that is identifiable and defensible that actualizes unity at any scale in the world, from an electron to the set of all real things. Because what you have are various levels and scales or categories of identity states and states of unity. In the Christian worldview, it's the mind of God that secures all of the states of unity, the mind, the purpose, and the plan of God. When they reject that, they're going to have to explain what is it that actualizes the realness of any states of unity or identity states from the smallest to the grandest scale. Well, there's nothing in their system. So that when they invoke various levels of unity in the world without reference to the necessity of God, they're invoking fiction, right? And the very world that they speak of without God, they are instantly violating the very criterion that they're using to dismiss God as the single causal, self-revealing first principle. And they're instantly violating that because they're operating that something else is actualizing all of the unity and diversity in the world. Well, what's the something else? Well, I don't know. So you don't know what it is, but you know it's there and you know it's not God? Yeah, that sounds like real super genius stuff. So it is utterly irrational to attempt to deny God. But because sinful human man doesn't want to acknowledge God, he doesn't want to accept God, he's content on gaslighting himself with irrational notions. And God is temporarily judging the unbeliever by allowing them to succumb to their own deceptions while they remain in an unrepentant state. Welcome, Hest. What would you like to say?
What's up, Darth? Yo, Darth, what's up with
Yo.
what's up with all these TikTokers? Like every time I bring a tag, like, what'd you do to them, bro? Like, they always say, this is a Darth Dawkins argument, bro. Like, that's the first thing they say. What'd you do, bro?
Well, you gotta feel sorry for them because they're emotionally traumatized by yours truly. They are suffering from Darth Dawkins derangement syndrome.
Bro, I went everywhere. Like, I'm like, not everywhere, but I've been, like, going to some debate panels, and they're like, oh, what are you, a Darth Dawkins fan? I'm like, bro, to be honest, Darth, I don't even listen to you too much. I know.
What? What did you say? Get out of here.
but I like because you're friends with PMARS, right? And I talk to PMARS
Yeah.
like a decent amount, so I see
Yeah,
you sometimes debate atheists. But it's just crazy because like I'm like, what did you do to them, bro? Like I've been going, and I'm like, they're like, oh, this guy's a Darth Dawkins fan. Oh, dude, it's like, oh, like every other live.
I'm telling you, Darth Dawkins derangement syndrome is alive and well, and it's communicable among atheists.
They're scared. They're scared of it, bro.
Well, we just had a fairly regular and prominent atheist, Jeff for Truth, come into the stream. I invited him up, and he refused to come up. He even posted a comment, and he's just a chicken. He likes to pick on little low hanging fruit of people who, are not prepared to defend the Christian worldview, and he runs away from me. I encountered him 2 days ago on a stream, and he ran away from me.
Huh. Jeez, man.
Yep. None of the atheist streamers come on here to talk maturely or intelligently because they are afraid. They don't want to be humiliated, and by that I don't mean that I'm going to be mean to them. They know that their crap reasoning, it won't be sustained.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to tell you, once you have a proper understanding of a biblical worldview,
it's over.
Right, then no atheist can stand against you rationally. They'll irrationally stand against you.
Yeah, because they start turning into sophists and fallacious arguments. Like, yeah, that's when yeah. I'm just like trying to figure out, like, what'd you do to these people, bro? It's like, the spirit, the spirit's alive. It's attacking the demons on these people.
Well, it's Darth Dawkins derangement syndrome.
Like all I say is like,
thank God that Donald Trump is president, because once he hears about it, he's going to try to get a vaccine for it.
You saw his Bible that he released? He released his own Bible. Not his own Bible, but it has the Bible with the Constitution in it.
Yeah. See, this is why we rarely get intelligent-minded atheists on here, because all the rest of them are afraid. They just love picking on low-hanging fruit, right? I try to go on their streams, and they won't let me up. And the rare times that I do get up, they're immediately abusive to me.
Yeah, and they mute you, and then they just don't let you talk. Yeah. It's like they're just desperate to defend their own worldview, like, because they're so delusional.
Well, almost all of them literally have the metaphysical reasoning of teenagers. Okay.
Metaphysical reasoning of teenage. I've never heard that one.
Yep.
Darth, what is it? Damn, what was it? Oh, so I was talking to atheists, right?
Look, you laugh when I say that. Okay, so they always go, "There's no evidence for God." What does that even mean? And how does it follow from your little cliche? There's no evidence for God. How does it follow from that God doesn't exist?
Right.
You see how devastating those two questions are? It just shows
ignorance.
The teenage metaphysical reasoning.
Yep. That's the appeal to ignorance fallacy.
Yeah, it is, depending on how it's cashed out.
Yeah, they're like, because there's no evidence for God, that means my world.
Well, really? Really? So is that just a claim?
Yeah, right. That's what.
Are you telling me there's no evidence for God because you're saying you're unconvinced? Do you have a rationale how the world is not indicative of God?
I like this, but I've seen more because, like, listen, Darth. All I've been doing, I didn't even give him tag or say I'm gonna run tag. All I said is, where do you ground logic? They're like, this guy's a Darth Dawkins fan. I'm like, all right, bro. Like,
yeah, you see, they're completely dishonest. They don't want to be held responsible or accountable.
Yeah.
For explaining their model of reality, they just want you to grant they're not God world. Okay, well, okay, fine. Well, then grant my world. Right?
How you been though?
I want to know how is anything real and meaningful in a world without God? How? Explain that.
Well, through observation, and then it just they just
Yeah,
start doing that.
they always bring up their sensory apparatus, which is colossally stupid when they say that.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't get any dumber than that.
What's
Your
that?
sensory apparatus, one sensory apparatus does not ontologically actualize everything in the world.
Right.
No.
What's that fallacy that like they just make a claim and say, "Oh, because it's like it's true because it's true." Well, I forgot what it was. I think it's the assertion fallacy, where they just make an assertion.
Well, I want to know what ontologically makes something true. And they're gonna go reality.
Observation of reality, right?
Well, reality is just simply saying the set of all real things. So how does everything make something true? Does each member of the set of all real things take part in imposing the truthfulness and actuality of the spin of an electron?
We gotta get some atheists up here, bro.
Yeah. Well, I feel sorry for them because they're gonna, on Judgment Day, they're in for an eternal nightmare.
Oh yeah. They're gonna know.
And we're trying to warn them. We're trying to break through to their darkened minds, their self-delusion, right? But when you combine self-delusion and rebellion, it makes for a perfect storm. You see, the Bible makes it very clear. God could have made it. God could have constructed his revelation in the world in such a way that no human being could gaslight themselves against God's revelation. But God has decided in his wisdom that his revelation is all sufficient for communicating to man, okay? But that upon rebellion of God's revelation, they will succumb to deception as a temporal judgment, right? And when you're deceived, you don't know you're deceived.
Yeah, exactly. What's it called? That's what would you say? You said self-delusion and rebellion. What? That's
Well, if you study Romans 1, it says their foolish hearts were darkened, okay? Look, even they in their own self-gaslighting knows the foolish.
Self-gaslighting.
Yeah, there's no evidence for God. Good. What does that mean? It's just an empty cliche. If I said there is evidence of God, they would say, really? Prove it. Okay, good. When you say there's no evidence for God, please unpack that for me.
Yeah.
Tell me what that means and tell me how you know it.
Yeah, so I don't know. So like they started saying like I was talking to atheist, right? He was really stupid. He was like, I said, "Oh, where do you ground logic?" He's like, "Oh, well, if you're gonna bring up precept." Well, I said, "Well, you're already making a presupposition that your view is true."
You just simply say this. Well, if logic isn't grounded in the mind of God, what is it grounded in?
Yeah. They're gonna say They always say observation or reality, like it's grounded.
Kawa, if you want to come up and discuss predestination, I'll be glad to set you straight, my friend. You don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, Darth, isn't axioms like basically precept? Because if you're gonna say it, if you make an axiom,
no. An axiom is a starting point that you can't justify.
That you can't justify.
But yeah, you can't justify it, but you wouldn't be able to reason without it. So we are defending the Christian worldview revelationally, not axiomatically.
Yeah. So like atheists usually go axiomatically, right?
Well, yeah, it's all a figment of their imagination.
How is that even like? Why should like axioms? Isn't that like just straight up like very dumb to argue against?
An axiom is one or more first principles that you will build upon in order to make sense of your world. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I know what
yeah.
Well, I know what it is, but I'm trying to say like, do you ever argue against axioms? Because it's to me, it's no point. Like you can't even justify that worldview. You have to grant it for no, you know what I mean? Like for the sake of argument. So it's like, epistemologically, just
Well, you know what? Look, these are people that they're mentally, emotionally, and spiritually twisted and warped because they're in a state of rebellion, right?
right.
It's sad. You have to feel sorry for them.
Yeah, I do.
This is why I don't get any intelligent opposition.
There is no
You're not
intelligence.
no, they're not. No, all I get are people that are faking that they intend to be mature, but then within a couple of minutes they go into a complete meltdown.
Well, you can't really call atheists, smart. Like, there's no smart atheists out there at all.
No, I wouldn't say that. It's not that they're smart. There's a whole lot of dumb atheists.
Okay. All right.
But you shouldn't say that all atheists are not smart. There are some smart atheists. It's just that they're greatly deceived and they're incorrect about their reasoning.
Like that.
You know. All right, since we're not getting intelligent opposition and I'm getting tired, I'm about to shut this down unless we have any intelligent unbelievers who want to come up.
Yeah, but again,
Okay, folks, I'm going to shut it down. Thanks for coming.